We have Ms. Jimenez with Ms. Benford. Mr. Rowans, I don't see a client for you today. Are we expecting him?
Your Honor, he's in the Caldwell County Jail. I had forwarded yesterday the Zoom information link to the contact. I'm not sure if they're going to make that happen, but I am, having met with him several times over the past month, I'm ready to proceed, and he's ready for this to proceed.
We anticipate having a trial today on the merits, Ms. Sexton.
Your Honor, it would be not a very long trial. We actually have a Rule 11 agreement that has been signed by all parties except for respondent mother and her attorney that I filed on the 14th of February, and that has narrowed down the issues considerably. I'll let counsel for respondent mother know what say what she agrees and doesn't agree with. So and it's not a termination trial, it's just a discussion of the rights and duties essentially for dad and the location of the visits. So we are ready to go forward. I will let you know that Mr. Rowans has done a heroic job with his client. He actually went down to the jail not once but twice to get his client to sign off on various Rule 11s, which we really appreciate. And I feel like we just have a few issues to bring before the court to decide.
2023, and we're set today on the court's docket for a trial on the merits specifically.
Yes, Your Honor. What we are seeking today is outlined in the Rule 11 agreement, which has been signed by all parties except for respondent mother. The one stipulation that dad had that he wanted to decide before the court was where the visitation would occur. We are asking that the visitation not occur in the home of respondent mother. The reason why we're asking for that is that in addition to the fact that dad has not done any of his services and has continued to test positive for meth, there was an incident back in January 7th of 2023 where he came over to the house. Ms. Jimenez.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to her saying anything that someone's not going to be able to testify to in her opening.
I will have Ms. Jimenez testify, Summer. May I continue?
Okay, Ms. Benford, I don't know what the testimony is going to be today. So, Ms. Sexton, please continue.
Thank you. And so, Your Honor, she did call the Ms. Jimenez did call the police. The police came to the home, arrested Mr. Gonzalez on an outstanding warrant. He is currently in the Caldwell County Jail. Ms. Jimenez did the right thing. She, in addition to calling the police, she immediately notified Amanda Swafford that she did so. But we would want the visitation to occur outside of her home because we want her to be able to have some structure and some kind of teeth behind when she's asking him to leave, that there's actually, or if he tries to come over to the house again, that it's actually a court order that he not have visitation there. While we understand that she was protective, she had to call the police and they did have to arrest him, which is a concern to us. The second thing that I believe that may be disputed regarding from respondent mother is the actual supervisors listed for supervised visitation in our Rule 11 agreement, which dad is in agreement with. We either have Ms. Jimenez supervising the visits or the individuals listed in the Rule 11 agreement. Those individuals are Ms. Jimenez's support group, and those were names that Ms. Jimenez gave to Ms. Swafford. Ms. Swafford ran background checks on them, let her know that those were all appropriate supervisors. And so that, again, we had some structure and some clarity for Ms. Jimenez that was listed in the Rule 11 agreement. Other than that, Ms. Jimenez has done a very good job. So we want her listed as sole managing conservator. We would want Mr. Gonzalez listed as possessory conservator. And then we'd want Ms. Jimenez to have the ability to make all decisions and to designate the rights, the residents of the children. And so again, it's just a couple of issues that we don't have agreement on that we wanted to bring before the court, but we all are in agreement that Ms. Jimenez should be named as the managing conservator of the children.
Okay, Ms. Benford, what is it that you and your client, Ms. Jimenez, are seeking today at the conclusion of today's trial?
So, Your Honor, Ms. Jimenez wants to be able to decide where to have visits, whether that's in her house or public. The department noted or pointed out that there was a situation that involved mom having, or Ms. Jimenez having to call the police. I think that could happen at her house or in public if he is not doing something that's safe for the kids. I think her response tells us that she will do what she needs to be protective wherever that is. We're asking the court to allow her in order that she be able to have her visits wherever she wants, so long as she is making decisions that are protective to her kids. What does it matter if it's at her house? Actually, it could sometimes be an inconvenience to her to have to go in the public and sit for 4 hours twice a month when they could just do this at home. The other thing that we'll be asking the court, Your Honor, is for that list of people to not be included in an order. They don't have to necessarily abide by the rule. Abide by the order. They're not parties to the order. These people were used in our CPS case as supervisors. The CPS case is going to go away. There doesn't need to be a list of people approved by the department. If mom is sole managing conservator, she should be able to decide who is safe for her children to be around, who should be supervising her children. One of those people on the list is in Houston. And so we're asking the court, if the department believes that she is safe, she's completed all of her services, they placed the children back in their house, and even they agree to name her sole managing conservator, that they give her also managing conservator rights. That's all we're asking, Your Honor.
Mr. Rowlands?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Gonzalez will be asking the court to name Ms. Jimenez as the sole managing conservator, Mr. Gonzalez as the possessory conservator, order Mr. Gonzalez to pay minimum wage child support, provide the visitation for Mr. Gonzalez to be 2 times a month for 4 hours each in the county where the children reside. He obviously would prefer to have the opportunity to visit the children at home, in addition to out in the public place, but he certainly will defer to Mrs. Jimenez decision-making on that issue. He's not opposed to the inclusion of a total of 6 supervisors to be named in the order. One of those 6 would be Ms. Jimenez. That's not a real concern for him, but he does know all those people who were proposed, and he would approve them being in the final order. And other than that, I think that is all he would be asking for, Your Honor.
Ms. Devaney?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Rowlands did a good job of essentially just outlining for you what our Rule 11 is. Within the Rule 11, I think at this point there's 2 sticking points. That is, can the father visit the children in the home, or does it have to be in public? And do we need an approved list of supervisors for him, or can we leave that to mom's discretion? At this point, I am aligned with the department. Ms. Jimenez has done a great job. I do believe she's safe to be with her children. However, her and the father in this case have a long history and a long relationship. Even during this case, it's been unclear whether they're together or separated, and then sometimes they're together and then sometimes they're separated. I think without clear boundaries for her, she will not make the most protective decisions when it comes to the father in this case. And I think if we give her those clear boundaries, it'll protect her and the children from ever being involved in CPS again. And that's my ultimate goal in this matter.
All right, so Ms. Sexton, whenever you're ready, you may begin your case in chief.
Thank you. Petitioner calls Victoria Jimenez. And Ms. Jimenez, you are the mother of Serenity and Esperanza, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And where are y'all living right now? Are you living in a rental home?
It's a mobile home. I own it.
Okay. And it's a mobile home located outside of Lockhart?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And is that owned by you?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it also owned by Mr. Gonzalez?
Not anymore.
Okay. Did you change the ownership of the mobile home?
He moved out.
Okay. When you purchased the mobile home, was it in both of your names or was it just in your name?
My name.
Now, are you currently employed?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Are you working full time?
My hours, they were a little cut due to therapy.
Okay. And where are you working right now?
Little Caesars.
And has Mr. Gonzalez, at any point in this case, given you any support for the children?
He has, but not through money order.
Okay. And how does he help you with the children?
He had gave his mom a couple of hundred to give me
Okay.
when he painted a house.
Okay.
But that was once.
Okay. So once during this case, he gave grandma a couple $100 to help out with the children.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other payments that you're aware about?
No, I told her to tell him to do it through money order and do it through the court.
Okay. And so far you haven't received anything else?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And Ms. Jimenez, I want to ask you a question regarding what happened on the 7th of January. On the 7th of January, were you home with the children?
Yes, ma'am.
And were y'all, and at a certain point, did Mr. Gonzalez come over to the home?
Yes, ma'am.
And when he came over to the home, were you and Esperanza and Serenity in the home?
Yes.
And did he come up to your home and knock on the door?
No, ma'am. We have it fenced in and I have a gate with the lock.
And so how did you know that he was out there?
I heard him. I was taking out the trash and I heard him.
Okay. And did you walk out there to see what he wanted?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did he tell you?
A couple things. I was having trouble with my car and his mother had mentioned it to him. And I guess he wanted to stop by to see what was going on with the car, but I informed him that he couldn't be there, that he was not allowed, and that if he was going to help with the car, he had to do it when the girls were in school and daycare.
Okay. And at the point when you were telling him this, did he also ask to see the girls?
He asked how they were doing.
Okay. And did he ask to actually see them at that point?
No.
Okay. At a certain point, did you ask Mr. Gonzalez to leave the property?
I did tell him he couldn't be there at that time.
Okay. And did he leave or did he continue to stay?
He eventually left, but he did stay there for a minute or two, and I left inside because I didn't want the girls to come out.
Okay. And you said he stayed there for a minute or two. When he stayed there, did you pick up the phone and call the police?
Yes, I did.
And did he hear you call the police?
Yes, he did.
And when he heard you calling the police, did he walk away?
He was gone.
Okay. And then did he eventually come back to the house?
No.
Okay. How many times did you call the police on him?
Once.
Okay. And when he was walking away, how long did it take the police to come to the
They never came.
Okay. Are you aware right now that he has been arrested?
Yes.
Okay. And have you talked to him since that arrest?
Yes.
And do you know why he's been arrested?
He had the warrant for failure to appear.
Okay. And was he arrested on the day that he came to your house?
Yes, but not in our home, not at our home, nowhere near our home.
He was
here
walking.
in Lockhart, walking.
Okay. And since that arrest, have you been able to go see him in jail or call him?
Yes, I have.
Both or either one?
Both.
Okay. And what was how many times have you visited him in jail since his arrest?
Maybe twice.
Okay. And what was the purpose of those visits?
To talk about what Adam was talking to him about.
Talking about wrapping up this case?
Yes.
Did y'all talk about the status of your relationship?
No.
What is the status of your relationship?
I am alone with my kids and he is there.
Okay.
We are not together.
Okay. Is there any plan on your part to get together with him once he gets out of jail?
No,
Do you know whether or not he wants to get back together with you when he gets out of jail?
he always has.
Okay, so he wants to, but you don't.
Right.
And since he's been arrested, how many times have you called him while he's been in jail?
I can't call him.
Okay, does he call you?
He has.
Do you know how many times he's called you since this last arrest?
No.
Is it more than 2 times, more than 3 times?
Yes.
Is it more than 5 times or 10 times?
Yes, ma'am. He was approved to talk to the girls by Amanda.
Okay. When he's talking to you, what does he say? What does he talk about?
Objection to relevance, Your Honor.
I'm going to allow it for now. Go ahead. Overrule.
He apologizes for being MIA pretty much.
Okay. And you're aware that, are you aware that during this case, he's tested positive for meth?
It's been a while that I believe they tested him, yes.
Okay. And are you aware that he has not gotten any services for his drug usage? Are you aware of that?
As far as I know, he went to Bluebonnet Trails and they said he did not qualify for the services and he informed Amanda about it.
Okay, so you believe that, do you believe he has a drug problem?
According to the test, yes.
Okay. And would you agree with me, he does not, he appears to not have gotten any help regarding his drug issues?
Help, no. Besides Bluebonnet Trails,
Okay.
no. I know he did parenting class, but
Okay.
he didn't complete it.
Okay. And are you asking today for the visits to occur in your home?
I asked for both public and home visits.
Okay. And at this point, do you have any concerns if you were in your home regarding the fact that he's tested positive for meth?
No.
And how often, as far as the visitation, would you be in agreement with, and this is, you haven't signed off on anything. So what I'm talking to you about is what we have proposed. We have proposed 2 supervised visits per month that will be 4 hours in length. Is that your agreement, or do you want a different visitation schedule?
That will be okay. I don't know how, if they break it up to 2 hours instead of the 4, maybe 2, like 4 times a month. Or
Okay.
I did tell him that I would like his help whenever I go to therapy. I take all 3 kids to therapy, so I would like that. But I don't want to only have to be in public for 4 hours after a full day of school, daycare, work, and therapy.
Okay. So you're talking about the therapy that you go to for yourself, or therapy for the children?
I take all 3. Well, my 2 girls, I take my girls, and my son will be starting soon.
Okay. And how many times a week do you take the children to therapy?
Twice a week.
Okay. And you said that you wanted his help. What kind of help do you want?
I would like for him to see how Serenity and Esperanza are in therapy so he can learn as well what he can do to help and helping them with speech and everyday life.
Okay, so you want him to actually then sit in on the therapy sessions so that he can get a better understanding of the needs of his children?
Right.
Okay. Another area that I wanted to talk to you about was the list of supervisors. At this point, do you feel that Mr. Mr. Gonzalez's visit should be supervised with the children or unsupervised?
Unsupervised.
And why do you think that they should be unsupervised?
Because I feel like I will make the right decisions when it comes to the kids, as far as if there's any concern or if I feel he's a threat or danger to them, I know what I have to do. I
Okay.
don't feel like I have to have grandma or my nephew or brother-in-law sit in for us to have a visit.
Okay, so like let's say he got out of jail tomorrow, and he came up and this CPS case was over with. Would you feel at that point comfortable giving him an unsupervised visit?
Meaning just me or me?
I'm sorry, and let me clarify that, Ms. Jimenez. When I say unsupervised, I mean nobody around, not like you, not not anybody, just him and the children.
No, I would be there.
Okay, so you want to be there for any visit he has?
Yes.
Okay. Did you discuss your support system with Ms. Swafford? Did you discuss people that are going to help you with the children and your friends and supports during this case?
I have, yes.
Okay. And were those names?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And these are all people that are known to you and you feel comfortable with?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And those are names that you gave to Ms. Swafford?
Yes.
Okay. And did Ms. Swafford tell you that she had run a background check on all these people?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And do you and did she tell you that the department didn't have any concerns with anybody you listed?
Right.
Okay. So some of these would some of these people would be potential supervisors, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you would want to supervise the children, or you would want to have one of your support supervise, is that correct?
Right.
Have you given
be me? Yes.
Okay. Have you given, are there any other names that you gave to Amanda that were not listed on this, on the names I just read off to you?
No.
Okay, I passed the witness.
Ms. Jimenez, the night in question that Ms. Sexton brought up where Mr. Gonzalez was arrested, did he, you said you heard him on the other side of your gate?
Yes, ma'am.
You were on the inside of your gate?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Did he try to come inside the gate?
No.
Does he have a key to get inside that gate?
No.
Did he tell you to let him inside?
No.
Was he aggressive?
No, ma'am.
You said he asked about the children. Did he ask to go to see them?
No.
Did he get upset when you said no?
No, ma'am.
Well, I'm sorry. You said he didn't ask to see them, but he did ask how they were.
Yes.
Okay. Has he ever asked you for visitation and you denied him?
He hasn't asked.
He hasn't asked. Do you think if you denied him, and if you don't know, say you don't know, it's okay. Do you think if you denied him, he would get upset?
No.
Has he ever been violent towards you?
No.
All right. Have you learned what it looks like for him, not just people in general, but what it looks like for him to be high?
I've watched videos, the links that my therapist had sent me of people under the influence.
All right. So you just know what you've learned in your therapy sessions?
Yes.
All right. If he exhibited any of those behaviors and you and he and the kids were together, what would you do?
I wouldn't allow the visit. I actually asked him if he would do tests outside of all this.
What did he?
Yeah, I asked him and he said, yes, he would.
Okay.
Because I don't want him around if he is under the influence or using. I've already made it clear to him.
All right. And you just stated for the court and for the parties here to hear that you want to be present for all of his visitation, if not some other supervisor?
Yes, me.
Okay. And why do you want to be present specifically?
Because I don't know how, it's been a while. I don't know how the girls will react. I'm pretty sure they would run, hug, and be over the moon, but they're my main concern. So if he wants to be involved, he needs to know that I'm watching everything.
Okay. And the visits that are out in the community, how would you get to those visits?
with my sister or grandma usually takes me.
Do you have a working car?
I did have one, but like I said, I was having trouble with it recently.
All right. And speaking of that, who normally helps you maintain your home and car?
It is Dad.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Okay. And does Mr. Gonzalez have a car right now?
No, he doesn't.
All right. And so you and Mr. Gonzalez potentially would have to find rides to get into the community to have what, a 4-hour visit?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Would it be more convenient to have a visit at home?
Yes, it would.
Do you think you can control your environment?
Yes.
Meaning if Dad exhibited some behavior that was unsafe or scary, do you think you can control that situation, call the police or handle it?
Yes, I do.
Are you wanting the court to, well, before we ask that, the list of names that you provided, Amanda, was that list of names for supervision during your, the return and monitor stage or earlier in the case?
Yes, if I needed a babysitter while I worked, and if grandma couldn't do it, then my niece would do it, or my other niece would watch them so that I could continue to work. And she checked the backgrounds, they were approved.
Okay, okay.
It was more for support, family support. I had a whole list.
Okay. I pass the witness, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Jimenez, would you agree with me that since this case has begun, that Mr. Gonzalez has been in and out of jail multiple times?
2 times, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And how long has he been in each time, if you know?
I believe the first time was like 3 months, and this time is probably going on 2 months.
Okay. And how long have you and Mr. Gonzalez been in a relationship?
We were together for our son's 18, about 20
years. Okay. And when he's released from incarcerated this time, how do you see y'all's lives fitting together?
Objection, relevance.
It's absolutely irrelevant. Overruled.
How do I see our lives? I mean, teamwork for the kids. It's always been teamwork. My son had special needs, and we did it all together. Taking him to school, he's wheelchair bound.
So what for the 2 children or 3 children at this point, but 2 that are the subject of this case, what exactly would that look like? Like, how do you see, give me what you see that looking like?
Like, what would he do with the kids? Help.
Right. How would he help?
I want him to be involved as far as therapy, maybe school. I mean, obviously they do miss him, but I'm not going to put them in any danger.
Would you want him to move back into the home?
No.
So where would he live, if you know?
With his mother.
Okay. Do you see him helping you babysit the children?
No, not if he's not approved. My younger son, doesn't have a case, so he can see him as often. But the girls, if he's not approved, then no.
So when you say if he's not approved, that would be a court's decision. In your opinion,
well, they're saying only 4 hours a month, so that's just visits.
Right.
In
your opinion, if the court said, Ms. Jimenez, you can make whatever decisions you want, we're going to let you make all those choices, what would you allow to happen?
It all depends on his sobriety. Like if he's clean, if he's not, then he can't.
Okay. And so how long, as far as you know, how long has he struggled with addiction?
I'm guessing this past year. Before, I never had issues with him.
Okay. And then when Ms. Sexton asked you do you think he has a drug problem? You said according to the tests, but I want to ask, do you think he has a drug problem?
He would not show me signs that, like, if I see the links, the videos, I wouldn't. I never saw anything. I never saw him using, and he was always busy and working, and we moved the mobile home and he did all of that. So
Okay.
I didn't see signs.
One of the times that he was incarcerated, you had a phone call with him, and in that phone call, you had a conversation where you asked him if he left Easter early to scratch his itch. What does that mean?
Objection relevance?
Overruled.
What
If
does
he
that-
was using, I mean, he wasn't using around us.
Okay, but
And I
in that
didn't
phone
know
call,
until,
so it's fair to say that in that phone call, you clearly knew he was struggling with some sort of addiction if you were asking him if he was going out to scratch the
well,
itch.
Amanda did the test.
Okay,
At that time, Amanda was doing our test. I mean, I've been tested for the past over a year and
What's
have came back clean, and he was not showing up for the test. So it was unclear.
okay. And then I want to talk a little bit about this January 7th incident. So it was your testimony that you asked him to leave and then he left a few minutes later. If he was compliant and the interaction was cordial, why did you feel the need to call the police?
Because I didn't want Amanda to show up, to drive by, or see him there when he's not supposed to be there. And I was not gonna jeopardize my girls being home for him just showing up unannounced. And he has apologized for that.
Okay, I'll pass the witness.
Ms. Sexton?
Just a brief follow-up. Ms. Jimenez, I noticed that you appeared to be emotional during the questioning from Ms. Devaney. Can you tell us your thoughts on why this is upsetting to you?
Because she asked, how would he help? And I said he would help with my son. My son is 20 years old now and could never walk. And he did everything for him. I mean, he got his high school diploma. We had him in school since age 3 to 17, where he got his diploma. If he was on any kind of drug, then how could he have helped me this entire time? This entire 18 years. That's why this past year was something unexpected for me. For him to be not doing the test, or for him to come out positive for a test.
Okay.
Because
Ms.
he's
Smith-
always been a great dad.
Okay. Do you feel like that Mr. Gonzalez is a manipulative person?
A manipulative, like, well,
Does he try to influence you to get his way?
no,
Even
he
if you
can't.
want- What?
He can't.
Okay. So are you worried that if we don't have any orders in effect regarding the location of the visits or who can supervise, are you worried that he will ever take advantage of the fact that there are not strict orders in place?
No.
I pass the witness.
Mr. Rowlands?
Just a couple of questions, Your Honor. Ms. Jimenez, if the court were to allow Mr. Gonzalez to have 8 hours of supervised visitation each month, do you think it would be beneficial for you and Mr. Gonzalez for the court order to dictate what days of the week those visitations occur, or would you want to have the discretion to detail when those 8 hours occur each month?
I would like to make the decisions with that. What's going to help with our family? What's going to help me with the 3 kids?
Okay, thank you. I'll pass the witness.
Ms. Sexton, any other witnesses you wish to call?
Yes, sir. Sarah Wardlow. And are you the supervisor on the Gonzalez case?
I am.
And as part of your duties as a supervisor, do you staff with the worker in this case, Amanda Swafford?
Yes.
And do you review the file and the paperwork that's associated with this case?
Yes.
And you are aware that the department has signed off on a Rule 11 agreement giving Ms. Jimenez sole managing conservatorship of the children, correct?
Correct.
And can you summarize how Mr. Gonzalez has done during the duration of his case?
At this point, Mr. Gonzalez has not made any progress on his case. He was previously incarcerated. Whenever he was no longer in jail, he was avoiding the department. He would not drug test. He did not actively engage in any services to an extent that the department would be satisfied with. The primary issue for him was his ongoing methamphetamine use, and he at no point addressed that.
Okay. And as far as the department knows that he's in jail, but we're not asking at this point for his rights to be terminated. Is that correct?
That's correct.
But we are asking that if he does have supervised visitation, that they occur outside of Ms. Jimenez's home. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Can you explain why that's the department's position?
The department does not believe it's in the children's best interest to continuously bring an active methamphetamine user into the children's home on an ongoing basis. Mr. Gonzalez at no point showed any abstinence from his usage or any motivation to maintain any sort of sobriety. So we have ongoing concerns for him using long-term with the children. They are special needs children already. So drug use around those children, decreasing any level of supervision would be a safety concern immediately for those kids. And the department's position is that Ms. Jimenez is easily manipulated by him, and he could further facilitate his way into more access, more visits, returning to the home despite not maintaining any sort of sobriety. Ms. Jimenez is very driven to co-parent, and that's a concern for the department. That's why we would like a very clear outline of when his access could be, and supervised only with the by Ms. Jimenez or the identified supervisors in a public location.
Okay. And did Mr. Gonzalez, during the pendency of this case, test positive for meth more than once?
Yes.
And based on your review of the case file, has he ever completed any kind of IOP regarding his drug use?
No.
Okay. And so specifically, if he were to have visits in the home, is the concern by the department that he would use that to further insinuate himself into the lives of Ms. Jimenez and the children?
That's part of it, yes. And his active drug use in the home presents a safety concern already.
Okay. As far as the supervisors that we have listed on our Rule 11, we obviously feel comfortable with Ms. Jimenez supervising the children, correct?
Correct.
So why did we have a list of approved supervisors instead of saying Ms. Jimenez or whoever she designates?
We offered those names as alternative solutions to if there were any issues with a domestic disagreement between Ms. Jimenez and the dad, as a support system for mom. That's part of the reason that we got involved in this case, is they didn't have much identified support as far as friends and family to help with the children. And so identifying those individuals can help reduce the safety concerns later. For example, if Ms. Jimenez is working or taking the youngest child to therapy, perhaps an approved supervisor could supervise dad's visits on a Saturday for those 4 hours, and relieve Ms. Jimenez of that requirement.
Okay. And so again, did the department list these supervisors as a way to punish Ms. Jimenez or as a way to help her?
We only intended it as an additional support for mom.
Okay. What would be the department's position on, I believe Ms. Benford will ask you, why not just say Ms. Jimenez or anybody she designates? Why would the department not be okay with that?
It just seems a better solution to have identified individuals in the plan, so that if there were any other, because there are individuals within this case that are not appropriate to supervise. And so not having those individuals listed was purposeful. And so identifying who would be a potential option for mom in the alternative to supervise seemed like an obvious solution.
And the ultimate goal of the department, besides keeping the kids safe, obviously, is to make sure we never get, we set it up so we never get involved with the family again. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And is the department asking for anything else in this case besides just incorporating the Rule 11 agreement to include the designated supervisors and visits outside of the home?
I believe those are the only things that were disagreed upon.
Okay, I pass the witness.
Ms. Benford?
Who was you mentioned or you insinuated that there were some supports that were not approved or no longer approved. Who was that?
The aunt is one of them. She was previously placement, but was allowing inappropriate access. So she would not be listed on the approved supervisor. I would have to go through the entirety of the case to confirm who the other individuals were.
And when you say the aunt, do you mean Marina?
Yes, the previous placement.
Okay, and how did she become unapproved, or why did the department decide to take her off the list of approved people or supervisors?
There was unauthorized access that was occurring.
Unauthorized access between who?
Between the parents and children.
Okay. But the kids have been returned back to mom at this point, and we are discussing dad's access to the children. So both of the people that she should have kept the kids from, they are going to have access to the kids, right? Or can at this point, at least the mother can.
I'm not sure what your question is. Are you referring to the aunt and dad?
Okay. Yes. Marina, you said allowed unauthorized contact between the children and the parents. That's how she violated the department's rules. Okay. And I'm saying at this point, the two people that she shouldn't have allowed contact with, meaning the parents, are allowed to have access, especially the mother at this point, and dad's access is at issue today. So is Marina still not an approved supervisor, or wouldn't be?
The department would not consider her appropriate, no, considering she did not follow the court order already.
But she's not a drug user, correct? Or that you know of, correct?
The aunt? No.
The aunt. And Marina did allow the children and participate in this case for about almost a year and a half, correct?
Correct.
And provided a safe space for the children to live?
Correct.
All right. And she didn't do anything to put the children in harm's way specifically, or there wasn't anything that the department found that actually put the children in danger, was it?
The unauthorized access could have led to an immediate safety concern. We're just lucky that it did not.
Right. And the unauthorized access was at the schoolhouse, correct?
It was from the home to the school, and we believe on multiple other occasions.
Okay. Okay. But nevertheless, Marina was a large part of this family's support system for an entire year, and the department is wanting to exclude her from the list, even though the department will not be involved, and the same issues that were the department's concern, those aren't going to be the issues anymore. You would take her support, Marina, as part of that support system, you would want her to say off that list?
To supervise the dad's access? Yes. Because she did not follow the court order in previously supervising dad's access. So she has shown that she cannot be appropriate.
Okay. During the year and a half that she was supervising dad's access, she did keep the children safe. And I'm talking about Marina.
Okay, can we move on to something else, please?
I'd like to get an answer to that question, Your Honor, and then I can move on to something else.
Move on now.
Okay. And then as far as the Rule 11 agreement, there's been a lot of discussion today about the parents' history, 20 years plus. You've heard testimony about that today, correct?
Yes.
And the department wants access between dad and the children how often? Twice a month?
Twice a month, yes.
For 4 hours a month?
Yes.
And so he too, a part of mom's support system. The department is wanting to allow him access and I guess to support the family during that 8 hours in the month.
Given dad's active drug use, he should not be a primary support system at this point.
So because he uses drugs, he shouldn't have to take care of the kids, support mom. He shouldn't have any responsibility because he's a user?
He should not have any active role in medical decisions. He can assist with those things under supervision, but he should not have a primary caretaking role of the children, no.
Right, we're not asking for primary.
So I'm not sure what the question is, because he can provide a support to her outside of access to the children. He can have an understanding of the children's needs outside of being present at appointments. He can do all of these things without being physically present, which in the last year and a half, he has elected not to do for his children. So I'm not sure what the significant change is going to be post closure of our case.
How can he, okay, I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Mr. Rowans.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Wardlow, CPS is asking that Mr. Gonzalez be named as a possessory conservator of the children, correct?
Correct.
Would CPS be opposed to his supervised visitations occurring rather than 2 times a month for 4 hours each, just have up to 8 hours a month at mom's discretion as to when those, how long each visit is, maybe a minimum of 1 hour each?
Yes, the department would be opposed to that.
So CPS would prefer that there be only twice a month for 4 hours each.
Yes, the department's looking for a very set, outlined plan for visitation and access. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I'll pass the witness.
Ms. Devaney.
No questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Sexton.
No questions, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Benford, any other questions for Ms. Wardlow?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, so Mr. Rowans, my understanding is that your client is currently incarcerated in Caldwell County. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. He had a warrant for a failure to appear at a hearing, and he is he's there pending that resolution of that issue.
Can you repeat that, Mr. Rowans? I don't know if our court reporter had a problem hearing that, but it was kind of jumbled up when I heard it. If you could repeat that for us, please.
It may be how I said it was the jumbled part, Your Honor. I apologize. Mr. Gonzalez was arrested for a failure to appear at a hearing on the pending criminal charge, and so he's incarcerated. The basis of the incarceration is his criminal charge, but the reason for his current incarceration is failing to appear at a prior hearing.
And if he was to have testified today, what do you think he would have told us, Mr. Rowans?
He and I visited at length about the Rule 11 agreement that was proposed, and he assigned it, and he's agreeable to mom being named as the sole managing conservator. He understands that she has done what she has needed to do in this case on behalf of the children, and that he has not done what mom has done in this case, and so he understands the need for mom to be a sole managing conservator, that he be a possessory conservator. He understands the need for his visits to be supervised. He would approve mom supervising his visits or any of the other people listed to supervise his visits, and he would agree to twice a month for 4 hours each. If that needed to be divided up to help mom facilitate those visits, he certainly wouldn't be opposed to that either.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rowlands. Ms. Sexton, you have any closing statement or argument you wish to make at this time?
Just briefly, Your Honor, in staffing this case with the department, it was a balancing act between recognizing that Ms. Jimenez, has done what she needed to do to be named sole managing conservator, and what do we do about Mr. Gonzalez. The only thing he's done with any regularity in this case is to become incarcerated. You've heard testimony that he didn't work services, but in addition, though, there's been evidence presented he can be manipulative. I mean, we didn't list Ms. Jimenez's sister because in the middle of a court case, he was able to. And knowing that we've got orders in place, he went with Ms. Jimenez's sister to the school. Ms. Jimenez's own testimony was that when she said you need to leave, he didn't leave instantaneously, which meant that she had to call the police. That was her testimony. He stayed there, and so she had to call the police. When she called the police, then he left. This is somebody that appears to be used to getting what he wants, and so we wanted to come up with some firm guidelines for him so he can't dance around or try to convince people to do things otherwise. I mean, he has a meth problem. He doesn't appear to follow rules, and so that's why we don't want him in the house. As far as the supervisors, we went overboard on that one. We talked to Ms. Jimenez, who are your supports? We made sure that Mr. Gonzalez, knew who these people were. But there is also a concern that there might be people that who are supervised that we know that have broken the rules during a court case, like Ms. Jimenez's sister, that we were concerned about. And that's why we came up with a list that we felt comfortable with and that Ms. Jimenez felt comfortable with. Again, this Rule 11 was not an attempt to punish her. It was to make it as expansive as possible while still keeping the children safe and while still making sure that this is something that will hold and hopefully will never have to be involved in this family's life again.
Okay, Ms. Benford.
Its goal is not to punish Ms. Jimenez. We don't believe that the department is trying to punish Ms. Jimenez. We do believe and agree that they are trying to leave her in the best situation possible and to keep the girls safe. And we believe that they believe this agreement does that. It is not bulletproof. If Mr. Jimenez wanted to stop by the house, Judge Stuckey, he could do that. And if she had to call the police, that would be an option that she would have. And we would hope that she would exercise that. And she did. She showed us that she could keep her kids safe. Giving Mr. Jimenez 8 hours a month is punishment to Ms. Jimenez. She's parenting every day, not 8 hours, sometimes every day. He gets 2 visits a month for 4 hours or whatever it ends up being broken down to. And yes, he does need to be clean. He does need to clean up his act, but he also needs to participate and help and take care of his kids. The department, Ms. Wardlow said that there were things that he could do outside of the home to support his children. As a parent, other than sending money to the home, I'm not really sure what that is. Calling calls is not sitting up with the kids late at night. And Ms. Jimenez is not asking for that, but there's so much more to parenting than just 2 4-hour visits and some calls and child support. And he's here. He's not in another city, Your Honor, in another state. He's getting a pass to not have to take care of his kids, all in the name of keeping Serenity and Esperanza safe. They have a parent that can do that. Whatever they think that can be done in the home can be done out in the community. And it is going to come down to Ms. Jimenez to make a decision wherever the visits are held to keep them safe. But on those days, and when we say support, it doesn't necessarily mean spending the night and Mr. Gonzalez being there by himself, but on those just 2 kiddos running around and one that will be walking maybe in about 6 months. And the department's idea of keeping them safe is to give them a single parent home, 1 parent to manage all of them. When if Mr. Gonzalez is appropriate, he can assist. He should assist. He helped them get here. I don't think the agreement is in the best interest of the kids. It puts a lot of stress on their mother. That agreement doesn't necessarily guarantee that she's not going to come into the department's under the department's purview again. She may, because of just stress, having to take care of the 3 kids by herself, while dad gets to just have some visits every now and then. And the department's put on enough evidence about his non-participation. What if those visits, he doesn't participate in that either, and she has nothing? Your Honor, all of the other parts of the Rule 11 we agree with. We're just asking the court to give mom exactly what sole managing conservator parents have. You know, I understand that the code specifically says unless limited by court, but we're asking the court to not limit it, because what the limitations that we are, or the limitations that this Rule 11 presents or puts out, they do limit the dad, but it doesn't help the family as a whole. It doesn't help the children, and it doesn't help Ms. Jimenez. And it puts her in a position to either follow the order or break the order, to potentially get help from him sometimes, that he would maybe offer it freely if maybe this order weren't in place. I think the order is reaching. I think the approved supervisors that were sufficient for the CPS case are no longer applicable and they're approved by the department. What if someone's on that's not on that list Ms. Gonzalez wants to allow to supervise? That shouldn't be the department's, they shouldn't reach that far, that long. That shouldn't be a part of their decision. 5 years from now, we don't know what's going on in their life, what will be going on in their lives. That order will still be applicable if it's not modified. And if the department hasn't come back into this family's lives, their reach shouldn't be that far. So we're asking the court to name Ms. Jimenez sole managing conservator and allow her to choose what supervisors she feels is appropriate to supervise visits between Mr. Jimenez and the children, if not herself, and to allow her to have visits where it's convenient, appropriate, and safe for her children, whether it be in the home or in a public place. Thank you.
Okay, so Ms. Bamford, obviously I've got some questions for you at this point, because everybody else seems to be, generally, we'll say in agreement with most terms, which it sounds like you and your client, although the court, you did not sign off on the Rule 11 agreement, so that doesn't make it the agreement of the parties. But, we've been in this case for 587 days. We tell families the same thing from day one. That is, you have to be able to provide a safe and appropriate and stable home for your children. So that's what we say from the very beginning, right? So I'm having a really hard time today with the testimony of the witnesses, understanding what exactly your client, Ms. Jimenez, has learned in this case. Because what she's telling us is that it's not fair to her that she has to provide this home by herself. It's not fair that we, potentially by my court's orders today, don't allow a person who's been a consistent drug user and cannot keep himself out of periods of detention out of the lives of his children. Like, it's not fair to her. Like, we're punishing her if I enter these orders. And what I would say, and I'm really interested, because maybe I misunderstood this, is that I'm not sure Ms. Jimenez knows what a safe and appropriate environment is for her children if she believes that Mr. Gonzalez has a part in her children's lives, because he hasn't shown us anything. He hasn't shown her anything other than that he has done a pretty good job over the last year and a half of being inappropriate at all times. So I'm not sure what benefit he has to the children. So if I miss something, please tell me. But I don't understand how her support network includes Mr. Gonzalez at all, right? We tell people, develop a support network that is able to help you. How did Mr. Gonzalez make that cut? Like, how is he a person in that support network that she would rely upon? Why would she not rely on everyone else potentially out there? How is he the guy that it sounds like she would be one of the first ones to call if she needed something.
Is that a question to me, Your Honor?
Yes, it is. I mean, because you are seeking this step on behalf of your client, and it's the testimony I heard from Ms. Jimenez is that it sounds like that Mr. Gonzalez is a very important part of her support network. Like if I was to cut him out of the kids' lives, that would be a problem, according to Ms. Jimenez. So is that the position of your client, that I need to keep Mr. Gonzalez heavily involved in the kids' lives and make him available to her, for respite care, help, all sorts of stuff? Because I'm not really sure what role she wants him to be a part of in this case.
She's not asking for him to have any unsupervised time, but just to answer your question and to make my argument clear, Your Honor, one of the things that can't be changed is that Mr. Gonzalez is who he is. He's their dad. I mean, using drugs, yes, that's a problem for a parent, and to provide a safe place for their child. They can't. I understand that. And she's not asking for him to have unfettered access. And of course, if he's actively using, and she can tell that he's using, it would be not smart for her to allow him to be around. But if he's not using, he's working, he's the one who fixes her car. She mentioned he painted her house. No one else has come over and painted her house, fixed up the kids' room. I'm not sure if we didn't put it in testimony today. I'm not sure if you've seen it in any past hearings, but he has been a support overall. He's done some things that fathers should do. She's not asking for him to be allowed to just go back to where it was in the beginning, but he's getting to not have to parent. That's what this boils down to, because he's a drug user. He doesn't have to parent. That's not fair, but that's not the argument that I was making. That's not in the best interest of the children.
Okay. Ms. Manford, anything else on behalf of your client?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Rollins?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Gonzalez would echo CPS's request to the court to name Ms. Jimenez as the sole managing conservator of the girls, and to name Mr. Gonzalez as a possessory conservator of the girls, that the court order Mr. Gonzalez to pay minimum wage child support, that the court order that Mr. Gonzalez have supervised visitation twice a month for 4 hours each, and if the only request that I would make today that I haven't discussed with anyone before today is whether or not mom would have the ability to break that 8 hours up if mom felt that was a more appropriate visitation schedule for her children. And then in carrying out the Ms. Jimenez's right to designate the primary residence of the children, we would just ask that a geographic restriction of the state of Texas be included in the order. And that is all that Mr. Gonzalez would request the court to order today.
Ms. Devaney?
Yes, Your Honor. I'm going to try to keep it succinct because there are a lot of things like running around in my mind. So I think the biggest thing that we've heard today is that Ms. Jimenez she can't tell when Mr. Gonzalez is using. And so she will just be unable to keep the children safe from him unless there are specific parameters in place to help her do that. She has shown that alone, when he's incarcerated, she can do a great job because he's not around to pull her down. But when he's not incarcerated, time and again, we have issues that come up. And so if we have a strict rule in place, she's also shown she can follow it, because that's why she called the police on January 7th, because she knew if Amanda found out, she would lose her kids. So if we have these strict rules in place, I truly believe she'll follow them. I believe that will keep these children safe. It will keep them in her home, which is where they should be. They love her. And this also allows them to maintain a relationship with their father. One of the arguments Ms. Binford made was that this order would make it where Mr. Gonzalez doesn't have to parent. And I would argue that it's that he doesn't get to parent. He's made choices that now he can't parent because he's not making the choices to allow him to be an appropriate parent and to get that benefit. And those are all choices he's made over the 500 plus days in this case. And I think you should honor his choices and limit his access and put these parameters in place to keep the children safe and to keep them out of CPS care in the future.
Ms. Sexton, since you are the petitioner in this case, I'll give the department the last word if you so choose.
I waive that, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. You give me about 3 minutes. I'm going to write out my orders. Okay, these are the court's orders based upon the testimony of the witnesses today. The court does name the mother in this case, Ms. Victoria Jimenez, as the sole managed conservator of both children the subject of the suit, Esperanza and Serenity. Additionally, the children's father, Mr. Sean Gonzalez, is named as a possessory conservator. The Ms. Jimenez has the right to designate the primary residence of the children within the state of Texas. As to child support, the court does order Mr. Sean Gonzalez beginning on March 1st, 2023, and the first day of each month thereafter to pay minimum wage child support for the two children the subject to this suit. Additionally, the court orders Mr. Gonzalez to pay $100 per month in medical support. And that money is payment to reimburse the cost of Medicaid in this case. As to the visitation, there will be absolutely no visitation at the home of Ms. Jimenez. The court orders that all visitation be at a public place or at a kid share-like facility. As to the supervisors, Ms. Jimenez is specifically excluded as a supervisor for visitation between Mr. Gonzalez and the children. The named people or persons in the Rule 11 agreement, which are supervisors. Additionally, if visitations at a kid share-like facility, their facility can supervise the visitations. Upon the signing of the orders in this case, the Department of Family and Protective Services is dismissed from any further responsibility and duties as to the two children. All court-appointed attorneys in this case, being Ms. Devaney, Mr. Rowans, and Ms. Benford, are excused and released from their appointments upon the expiration of all de novo and appellate deadlines. The court specifically finds today that Mr. Gonzalez poses a danger, an ongoing danger to the children. Specifically, the court finds that Mr. Gonzalez, the danger he poses to the children includes his continuous drug use. Ms. Jimenez, I'm going to be honest with you today. These are the court's orders. I think some of the parties in this case have more faith in you than I potentially have after hearing your testimony today. Your job is to keep these children safe no matter what. You are their mother. That means you are to keep them safe from everybody. Mr. Gonzalez, any other potential person that poses a danger to your children. If that's an inconvenience, too bad. Your job is to protect your children. Mr. Gonzalez may be helpful to you, but he's not helpful to the children. He poses an active, ongoing danger to your children. As to the length and duration of the visits, Mr. Gonzalez's visitation will be 2 times per month, 4 hours each time. Obviously, if it's at a kid share or like facility, they may not be able to accommodate 4 hours. If it is done at kid share or like facility, Mr. Gonzalez is responsible for all costs of that visitation. So, Ms. Jimenez, hopefully you have developed a good support network during the duration of this case, but I will tell you, whatever that support network is, Mr. Gonzalez is not to be in it. And I will tell you, if you put Mr. Gonzalez in your support network, I fully expect that I will see you again in the next few years. Because Mr. Gonzalez, if he's proven anything, he has consistently proven during the duration of this case that he is not good for your children. And he might be good for them 10 years from now. He might be good for them in 5 years from now. But today, he's not good for them. So please consider that as you make decisions for your children. All decisions that you make for your children must be in their best interest. If they're in your best interest, then that's good too. But first and foremost, they have to be in your children's best interest. So, Ms. Sexton, if you will draft the proposed final order in this case and circulate it to the other attorneys, please.
Yes, sir, I'll do that.
I'll be looking for that over the next few weeks. Hopefully we can get that entered and get this case finalized.
I think
Thank
I
you,
get that tomorrow, Your Honor.
Thank you, everybody, for being here today. I'll give you back the rest of your afternoon, so you may be excused.